I want to start off this post by saying I post this content for entertainment purposes only. It's subject to scrutiny, and that by no means am I saying that Coyote Peterson found a primate skull or that Bigfoot actually is real or exists. Possible primate skull discovered in British Columbia, Canada. Coyote Peterson, host of popular show Brave Wilderness, believes that while exploring in British Columbia that he has discovered a possible primate skull. About 24 hours ago, he posted about his find on Facebook in fear that if he didn't, it would be covered up. He writes that he kept it secret for several weeks and actually smuggled it out of the country, and it's in safekeeping. It says, "We thought it was a bear skull when we found it. I can 100% guarantee it is not." The skull was found partially buried underground in the deep Black Forest ravine after a massive storm in the Pacific Northwest. In fear that it would be seized by state park or government officials and never brought to light, he smuggled it back to America, and right now, it is currently being looked at by a primatologist. He's using discretion when saying what he believes it possibly is, but y'all know what he thinks it is. If so, this find would change history. There has never been a finding like it in the Americas. Up to this point, it is believed that gorillas and primates had never inhabited the area. And if it does just so happen to be the notorious Bigfoot, this find is colossal. That's always been the #1 argument of skeptics about Bigfoot. Where's the bodies? Where's the remains? And I'm also not saying that this is Bigfoot. Nobody really knows yet. But the speculation is that it possibly could be. And the reason there's never any finds of Bigfoot, I believe, is that they take care of their dead. They dispose of the bodies. As you can see by the picture, the skull is significant in size. So as you can imagine, the scientific community is buzzing. And by reading some of the comments on his Facebook, some of the fans were actually disappointed with him, which surprised me. They didn't like the fact that he broke the law in smuggling it through TSA from Canada to America. But he must have surely felt that that's what he had to do because he's a public figure. He's known. He had 1.6 million follows on Facebook. So for him to go to this extreme, he must be pretty adamant about what he believes it is. If you go check his page out, look at the original post. It says breaking news, and he believed that it would be taken down, but it hasn't been yet. It's been getting shared all over the internet. As far as evidence of Bigfoot in the area, the First Nations tribes people has told stories about them for centuries. They called it the matlog and described it as a beast that had human-like features but was covered in bristly black hair and was massive. They would tell stories of them harassing the tribe. And the following story is one of the earliest known recorded accounts of Bigfoot, part 2. One of the earliest known recordings of Bigfoot dates back to 1792 in a book called The Account of the Nuka Sound. The journal was written by Jose Mariano Mazzino, and it was during a time when the Spanish and English were exploring the Pacific coast heavily. The story begins in 1774 when a captain named Bruno Aceta discovers an inlet the Nuka called the Mauicat. 18 years later, in 1792, the Viceroy of New Spain, Juan Güemes, ordered the exploration of this area and its inhabitants. One of the explorers, Jose Mazzino from Mexico, documented something peculiar. In his journal, he wrote and documented what the tribespeople called the metlog. They said it lived in the mountains and would terrorize the tribespeople. The creature's skull was similar to that of a human's, but they had fangs and sharp claws, like a bear or a wolf. They were tall, and they had bristly black hair covering their whole body. The tribespeople believed that it was some type of demon, and they were absolutely terrified of the creature. Then almost 150 years later, it's said or believed that something incredible took place in 1928. Trapper and explorer Harry Mukalat had been staying with the Nuka tribe. Harry had just left the company of these people to travel up the Canooma River to trap. After a long day's travel in his canoe, he decided to make camp and get some much-needed rest. He had some dinner, then cozied up to the campfire and fell asleep. A couple hours later, he was in a deep slumber when suddenly he felt himself being picked up off the ground. At first, he thought he was having a terrible nightmare, but quickly realized it was actually taking place. He jostled and fought with everything he had to break free from his captor, but it did no good. This beast was entirely too strong. It toted Harry for miles, nonchalantly, as if he was nothing. Harry had been abducted by a Bigfoot, and it carried him around 4 to 5 miles away from his camp. And when he finally dropped him, he realized he was at their colony's location, and there were 20 other beasts surrounding him, just staring at him. There were both male and females of all different sizes, observing him intently. As they were staring at him, he happened to glance over and noticed a pile of bones, so he thought for sure he had met his fate. It turns out the creatures were more interested in the blanket that he had wrapped around him than eating him. And during the course of the day, much to his luck, the beast seemed to lose interest in him, so he got up and made a run for it. He ran for miles until he eventually reached the Nuka village that he originally left. It's here he was found by a Catholic missionary and they took him in. It took him 3 weeks to recover from the ordeal, and many more to even talk about it. Eventually, he did tell the priest exactly what had happened, and for good reason. He never returned to the area, nor did he ever go in the woods alone again. And as the years passed throughout the 20th century, the term matlog was used less frequently, and they began using the name Bigfoot. So there you have it, guys. That's one of the earliest accounts of Bigfoot in North America, on the Pacific coast near British Columbia. But I want to say again, by no means am I saying that Coyote Peterson found a Bigfoot skull or a primate skull for that matter. The only reason I told that story was to document possible Bigfoot sightings in the area and to educate you guys a little bit on the history of Bigfoot. Does this mean he is real? No. Does it mean they found a skull? No. I just want to be clear on those notions. So I hope you enjoyed the story. Thank you guys so much for following me. Thank you for supporting me. And continue to watch. Continue to stay tuned. Follow, like, comment. Stay in the love, stay in the light, and treat others how you want to be treated. I am out.